Good evening. It's Nutball Cop once again. Wanted to do a live video earlier, but I got caught up and I am still recovering from surgery. So trying to get things done is kind of slow going. A few more weeks of this, but I am recovering day by day and feeling better. And I wanted to get a recorded video in and submit that as another post. Um, because I want to think through some thoughts here um, about what happened in Orem, Utah, what is happening with the far right, what is happening with law enforcement, which is quite disappointing, and try to find some sensibilities and some explanations, at least, on some of the daft reactions to the Charlie Kirk murder. It is not a political assassination. This is inter-gang violence. If you've watched me or read me for any time now, I've tried to explain thoroughly and repeatedly that this crew, the Trumpian movement, operates much closer to an 80s or 90s, cocaine dealing gang um, that we were up against, on my teams in the military police, uh, and working with local law enforcement and DEA and everybody else. Um, this incident really breaks open. I hope, I hope this reality is revealed to common sense folk, um, that you're dealing with a violent gang movement of ideologues, con artists, fraudsters, self-aggrandizing, self-promoters. I guess we call those influencers now. I hope no one ever calls me an influencer because that's not my point. I'm not trying to influence your thinking. I'm trying to get you to think about things, critically think about them, amalgamate them into your own knowledge, your own experiences, and your hopefully good set of morals and ethics, and come to the right conclusion for yourself. Um, this whole thing where we're now experiencing far right Fourth Reich theater led by fucking Nancy Mace. The woman who was popularized because Bill Maher kept inviting her on his show because he wanted to fuck her. That's how we get stuck with yet another dipshit in Congress who's turned out to be just in the beginning I didn't think she was going to be that bad. She's turned out to be just another fucking idiot, like Moron Taylor Greene, like Lowen Bolbert, Miss GED genius. And I'm not saying you need a college education to be smart. I don't have a college education and I'm very well read. I know plenty of people in my industry and in the military who were not college educated and were really intelligent people. But the cabal has formed with the female far right default dipshittedness reaction club. Nancy Mace's tweet I saw earlier about putting Kirk to lie in rest and state in the rotunda is even more absurd because this is not, again, I will state this a bunch of times. This is a simple 187. This is the same kind of investigations we did back in the 80s and 90s. Gang A gets pissed off, or gang faction A gets pissed off at gang faction B. Power plays ensue, and then violence occurs. Okay? Um, that's what happened. This is a murder. This is a aggravated murder from a sniper's nest, which makes it a first degree murder. I guess they call it aggravated murder in Utah. I'm not familiar with Utah state laws. I never worked there. I don't think I would work there. I don't think they'd like me as a cop in Utah. Um, Being a free thinking atheist with my own opinions about society, governance, and law enforcement, that doesn't fall well into the moderate to extreme religious right that exists in Utah. I have friends who are Mormons. I have friends who are Utah. I'm not saying everybody from Utah is bad, not at all, but I'm saying there's a reason I don't live there. And I never worked there. I considered working in Las Vegas, and I also considered working in Portland and Connecticut and Vermont. But Utah was never one of the places I considered working. Um, so yeah, Nancy Mace's call, I guess successful call to lie, a far right propagandist, self-aggrandizing merch salesman who fed young men all the wrong messages. I don't understand why he's in the rotunda, because he promoted a political movement that was quickly turned into a cult. That's why he's lying in state. And the cult, which Nancy Mace has now made herself a member of, uh, thinks that a murder between gang members deserves to be a state funeral or a state memorial, whatever lying in state actually means technically. There's no means a important person in society or governance gets laid in state, but I don't see the importance of Charlie Kirk. I don't consider this an assassination. But again, intergang violence. Okay. Um, this may be obvious to a lot of close observers and the smarter on the fly folks out there, but Cash Mattel needs to either be fired or he needs to recuse himself. His tweets and public statements are absurd about Charles Kirk. If he is so emotionally wrapped up in Kirk's death, he does not need to be involved in the police investigation of Kirk's murder. Okay. And let me make something really clear as a retired cop and former MP sergeant. I've seen these kinds of things before. Now, even though I don't think anything positive about Charles Kirk, he was a rolling disaster in his evil media reign. If you don't think as a peace officer I wouldn't arrest the shooter and book him on first degree murder, you would be completely wrong. I didn't like some of the gang members that got dropped. I didn't like some of the I really didn't like the fact the one county fair where one of the Mexican gang members got opened up with a knife, rib cage to rib cage, side to side. He was literally found in a porn shop back hallway trying to hold his intestines inside of his body. Um, I didn't want to see that to happen, and my mission that night was to go find that damn bastard who stabbed the kid or sliced him open and go arrest him for aggravated assault and maiming. Um, my thoughts about the victims, the suspects, the reporting parties, that has nothing to do with the way I process a case. Okay, one of my best reports I ever wrote was a prostitute who got raped in a city park. In one of the blocks on the front page of the form, it was all the statistical blocks, first name, last name, address, all the breaking data variables that you have to break down. One of our boxes was victim's activity prior to the crime. I wrote smoking crack cocaine in a city park. Okay. Then I wrote a kick-ass rape report, I don't know, 20, 30 pages long. Collected all the evidence, took her to the hospital, did the interviews. She even gave me one of her regulars, and I said, I'm not going to arrest him or for prostitution or whatever. I just want to make sure that guy wasn't involved. And she goes, I don't think it was him. And I go, I understand that, but I also want to know who else knows you. Okay, so I fully ran the case. Even though this is illegal prostitution in a city park, prostitution is illegal in California. I don't agree with adult prostitution being illegal. I think prostitution should be completely legal, like Nevada or Germany, West Germany, where I lived. It was completely legal. It's a better system. It's a healthier system. It's a safer system. It's a less violent system. Um, but even though my personal opinion was prostitution should be completely legal and the city thought it was illegal, I wrote the case as I thought I had to as a peace officer. It was straight out cop work, nothing else. And that's exactly what would happen if I was an investigator in the Kirk murder. Even though I loathe Kirk and his ilk and the damage they're doing to young men, it does not mean I would not faithfully and properly prosecute a murder case to the best of my abilities as a peace officer. So I just wanted to make that clear. Now, Cash Patel, on the other hand, he's losing his shit. He's incompetent. His reactions are more his MAGA prom date died than he's investigating a case. This is dangerous. It's already dangerous having a clown show in charge of the FBI. We need a solid FBI. Yes, I know the history of the FBI. Yes, I know all their problems. I know their biggest fuck ups. Miami shootout was one of them. They didn't know what the fucking clue a felony stop was, and they got their asses kicked by two well-armed bank robbers with mini 14s. But we still need an FBI. We still need a federal law enforcement, a professional law enforcement agency that can do interstate and international crime. Now, do they need to have huge oversight and regulations and statutory restrictions given certain situations? Absolutely yes. But that does not mean at any time we don't need an FBI. This defund the police, as long as it's the FBI, and the far right is the one that's preaching that. Okay, I thought it was fucking stupid when the far lefties go, defund the police. And I was like, who's going to investigate a fucking murder? You find a dead body of a 15-year-old girl in a river, real case in Germany I had, and we're just going to let the Murder, She Wrote Club process the case? Go in there with the tools and take care of the crime scene? Are you fucking kidding me? Okay, it was dumb when the far left said it. It's more idiotic when you say, I love the police, support the police, thin blue line, and then you go, defund the FBI. Dumb. But it's even worse when you have that attitude and then you put ideological compromised dipshits in charge, not just of the head of the FBI, where there's a bureau of career guys that somewhere are down packed below them, but they're literally taking sacks out of office, special agents in charge, and replacing them with fucking dingbats. Okay, I'm proud to say that every one of the CID SACs I served under were FBI special agent, supervisory special agent trained. They were chief warrant officer fours, and they were smart, honest, good cops. Okay, that's not what you get at the FBI when you install the MAGA clown show into the FBI. And this case proves it. We have $100 billion, a quarter or a month. It's the price tag is insane for our domestic security apparatus. Okay, which is the money, taxpayer money is spent at the local, county, state, and federal level repeatedly. Multiple vectors repeated on all vectors. We spend so much money trying to find the boogeyman. That whole apparatus was useless in finding the suspect who shot Kirk in the neck. Okay. And oh, by the way, if you have sensitivities to gory, bloody violence, do not watch that video. It's on my page. I'm not taking it down. I've been saying for years, every single video from Sandy Hook should have been put online. Every single video from Parkland, Florida should have been put online. Every single video from Uvalde should have been put online. Unedited. If you're going to manufacture gun violence as a policy of the states and the federal government, driven by corrupt politicians and lobbyists, don't hide the gun violence from us. Show it for what it is. Okay? Because even though I don't like Charles Kirk, I'm horrified of the violence. Political violence solves nothing. I'm of Irish descent. I know. I've read many books about the Troubles. Okay? If you think tribal or sectarian or racist violence gets you over, start reading a fucking book. Maybe even a coffee table book. That would be good. Read about the Troubles in Ireland. Read about the Yugoslavian War, which I've been telling you about the whole time I've been on social media again. Okay? Took a break from the other platforms, and then I jumped over here. But I've been talking about this for 15, 16 years. And what this case proves is, I understand that the shooter's suspect's dad was a cop. or retired cop. I don't know which, but he's a pastor now. He's a pretty right wing, some denomination pastor. I don't probably Mormon because it's Utah, but there's also a bunch of Christians that live there, a bunch of far right Christians that live there. So I don't know what domination, but he's a far right pastor, far right family. Grandma gets on the news with a British newspaper or website or whatever. And oh, yeah, we're 100% MAGA. We're 100% Trump. We're 100% far right Republicans. We eat, live, and breathe the cult as the family. Okay. Even with that said, not surprising any of that, by the way, but even with that said, Dad, the cop or retired cop, still had the moral wherewithal to be a cop. Okay. I don't care who in my life I thought was just the killer in an aggravated murder, first degree murder case. I'm calling the police. Murder, a criminal homicide is never justified. There is something called justifiable homicide. What happened in this intergang violence between the Nick Fuentes faction and the Laura Loomer faction and the Charles Kirk faction. Okay, terrorist groups do this too, like Baader-Meinhof and Red Army faction, and ETA did this in Spain. They always fractionalize because there's always eventually a pure. The more crazy you are, and the more dedicated to your insane cause you are, the more you think people around you don't pass the purity test. And what happened with the shooter, Robinson, was he looked at Fuentes and then looked at Kirk. Fuentes, this Latino Hispanic last name, white nationalist. Yeah, that makes sense. Um, See how the right won the diversity game too? They won all the arguments. We're in this shit show. And they also won the diversity game. There are Latino Nazis, Hispanic Nazis, Asian Nazis, black Nazis who like tranny porn. I mean, they got diversity covered over there. I think the left needs to take a pause and do some self-examination here. Because they won your argument, apparently. Horrible. But it happened. So Dad figures it out. And I guess a youth pastor was involved. Why? I don't know. That's a part I don't like. I don't need to call the vicar. I need to call 911. And if anything happened between that part in his cop mind that said, oh my God, my son just fucking sniper murdered somebody in the most heinous, immoral, unethical, criminal event, his first reaction should have been grabbing a cell phone and dialing 911. Okay. But I guess they talked him into turning him in. Also good. We had that a couple of times. Guy showed up at the front door, put his hands up, said, I'm the guy you're looking for. Well, okay. Why don't you get on your knees and put your hands behind your head? Because I don't want this to get ugly. And you're wanted for aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, aggravated battery, and attempted murder. So please cooperate. So yeah, Dad turned him in. So, oh, by the way, this sounds like the Unibob. Remember when the FBI took total credit? They even made fun of this in the X-Files. Where didn't you guys, claim that you solved the case, but it was actually his brother turning him in? It's one of those things again. But I know Kash Patel and Trump are going to wave the freak flag, how they solved this whole case and nailed it down and done it. No, Kash Patel released 2 fake, false, misleading, investigation damaging press releases which weren't true in this investigation before the real suspect was identified. Patel is part of the problem. He was not part of the solution. Okay. The security apparatus we spend so much fucking taxpayer money on completely failed. This is why local law enforcement is where it's at. And if you read tonight's essay about local control, or if you're seeing this tomorrow or the next couple of days, my last essay about local control, you'll understand that law enforcement is best local. Okay, yes, you need some state police. Yes, you need some federal police, like I was just saying. But the more local it is, the better off you are. Okay, you need to have state licensing and state standards, and they need to be strictly enforced. I do like the fact in California that you can be stripped of your license now. Um, I don't have a problem with that. If you're corrupt or criminal and you should not have a license. Just like if you're a bad doctor or dentist or a lawyer, you should have your license removed. I don't see any difference. Okay. But local law enforcement's where it's at. It's not DHS. DHS was a power grab by Karl Rove and W. Bush using John Woo's fucking stupid imperial presidency claim and paper. Um, DHS was a power grab. It was never, ever law enforcement. If you want lower crime, you need local cops. Okay. Doesn't mean you don't need sheriffs and search and rescue from the sheriffs. Those are different types of jobs. Okay. But for city patrol, you don't need ICE showing up in Chicago. You need better cops in Chicago, more well trained, in better physical shape, with better mental health. Okay. So instead of invading fucking cities with the Department of Homeland Security, we should be spending that money on local resources, especially in the cities where the data show that the crime is bad. And I put that heat map in the last essay. ICE presently is not in any location other than their threat to go to Memphis. They are not in a location where the highest crime is occurring in America. That's just a fact. They're picking cities out because of nationalist grievance, not because of crime data. The federal government's own crime data shows their policy is not based on what they're talking about. Okay. Stop spending all this money at the federal government letter. Go back and read that local control article or essay and realize the money should be spent locally. Okay. One credit of another politician I really don't like, Bubba Clinton. The one good thing he did in the 90s when we were having that crime spike is he got Congress to spend money on local police. That put more two-man cars out when the drive-by shootings were happening. That put more overall patrol. So when something big happened, like gang violence or a drive-by or whatever, you still had cars available to go answer other calls. Okay, domestic violence, bar fights, traffic accidents. Okay, if your whole job is chasing guys who are doing drive-by shootings 4 times a night on every Friday night in your town, you don't get a lot of other things done. And the cops program helped us staff better and be more responsive. Okay, which by the way, cops is completely different from broken windows. Broken windows is so fucking stupid and is such a lie. The New York's own fucking data shows if you'd unleash the cops in Manhattan, especially around Wall Street, you'd have got more warrants and better cocaine. So broken windows was always bullshit. That was, again, blaming poor neighborhoods for all the crime and ignoring the fact that whites commit most of the crime because they're most of the population. They are slightly correlated. And white collar crime and wealthy people doing crime was just being completely ignored. So, and yeah, we all know that now. Okay. There's one thing, and write in the comments if anybody can explain this to me. What is with the fucking lefty, tearful fucking Instagram and TikTok videos? Why is the children? I think that's what Kathleen Madigan calls them, the children, the millennials, the Z's. I guess the millennials aren't children anymore, but who the fuck is crying on the left over Kirk? And what is this, lefty clickbait? You're playing into the same bullshit that's everything wrong with the internet and everything that's wrong with what Kirk did. I just do not get how an anti-Semite and a bold-faced racist. I watched a compilation of his comments on black women, Kirk's comments on black women. Disgusting, overt hatred and racism. Okay. Lefties are crying about it on TikTok. Can someone explain that to me? Anybody? I don't get it. Okay. I'm upset about the political violence. It's always uncalled for. I don't like any murder. Okay, that's unlawful. Okay, but I don't have any empathy or sympathy for Kirk. He was the champion of you got to take a little gun violence to make America work. Um, no, no. Okay, all his opinions in my book were wrong. He played people. I wrote a whole essay on this. That my last essay. Would thank you for the nice comments on the last essay, and the feedback. Um, he was everything wrong. He was everything wrong for young men. Okay, so no, I don't have empathy for him. He was promoting a cultish far right white power, white nationalist bullshit ideology, which nobody should subscribe to because it's pretty fucking dumb. And history has proven it to be evil and dumb. Um, and I do feel bad. I've been online a lot because I'm just kind of sitting around convalescing from the surgery, and I was scrolling through Blue Sky, and wow, some of the black female academics, especially the ones who have doctorates and have doctor on their profile. Um, I don't know how much of this was grassroots and how much of this is the troll farms, the pro troll farms, either here in the United States run by far right billionaires or North Korea, Iran, Russia, fucking with people. Um, I think my estimate is the majority of it is homegrown. The rest of it is amplification because I saw that in email within the first term when I was doing email security and having to filter out highly partisan, highly nationalist emails that were going to a client that we restrict basically all non-business type of emails and websites and stuff. The internet there is for business use and casual use, like checking the ESPN scores or the news while you're eating lunch. It's not uh, to digest nationalist propaganda and criminality and Bitcoin frauds and all the other stuff I had to block. Not to mention all the clickbait and ransomware and malware and all that kind of stuff. So, I directly saw like for a period in the first term, you would get 20 emails with no dangerous payload in them going to anywhere from a couple of users to 20 separate users. Soon as somebody interacted with the mail and they knew the box was hot, here comes the kill shot. Where do you think the kill shot was sent from? Well, I did geolocation, and Obelisк outside of Moscow. Every kill shot that had nationalism, Trump, fake merch, the polling emails were from inside the United States on jacked U.S. data center racks. The kill shots were sent from 95% of the time from Obelisк outside Moscow. Okay, but the black female doctors are just getting trolled and abused, and it's uncalled for. Okay, Orem, Utah is not the whitest city in America, but 79.12% people in the last survey identified as white. It is one of the whitest cities in the country. Okay. The suspect was a far right MAGA disciple, gadfly, loudmouth on the forefront of the political movement. The kid and his family are 100% MAGA, 100% far right, 100% Trump Republican, uh, uh, which code, self excusing code for we're nationalist, we're theocratic nationalists backing Trump, because that's his base. His base only consists of nationalist, including theocratic nationalist, and corporate socialist. That's his base. And a bunch of people who don't know any better because they can't figure it out. So you get white suspect, white shooter, whitest city in the nation, one of the whitest states in the nation, if not the whitest state in the nation. The governor gets on TV, the Utah governor, and says he really had hoped this was somebody from not here, and everybody took it online, and I how would you take it otherwise? He was really hoping it was somebody that was not white, not from Utah. And he tried to pass it off as this, oh, protecting my homie in Utah statement, and it just came off so wrong. Even when I saw it on the big screen in the room passing by, and I actually had to back it up and listen to that short little bit, and I go, he actually fucking said that. Are you kidding me? Really? And after he says that, everything we learn about the shooter, the suspect, the family, the ideology behind all of them is all far right nationalism. But who do they blame? Black female doctors, well educated black females, historically black universities, and I don't know if it was just the DNC got bomb threats and everybody got sent home. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I think maybe it was just the DNC, maybe it was a couple of the regional offices also. They're threatening people who are the exact opposite of the profile of everybody involved, including the people having meltdowns, like Cash Patel. They're all the same crew. They're all rowing the same boat. They're blaming everybody else but themselves. Talked about this in the essays recently. Blame shifting is a core component of a dictatorship, a nationalist dictatorship. You've always got to have an enemy, and that enemy is always to blame for everything. Okay? Even though everybody's white, everybody's MAGA, everybody's a far right lunatic, everybody's a theocratic nationalist or nationalist, everybody's in this game under Trumpian insanity, but it's somebody else's fault. The blame shifting on steroids, including by the Utah governor, is shameful and unethical. And the last bit before I let you go is I have to give Democrats some credit. They actually try to take the high road and show some empathy. I was looking at some of their tweets and looking at some of the statements on my laptop, and yeah, some of them really tried to. Now, some went way too far, fucking Ezra Klein. Oh, he did politics right. Racism and calling black women stupid. That's doing politics right. Fuck Ezra Klein. Don't spend another minute reading the moron Ezra Klein. Fuck him. Kirk didn't do a fucking thing right. They took it too far. The lefties crying on TikTok, they took it too far. I think that's clickbait. I'm not sure. Explain to me if you can. But Democrats did show empathy. And I want to go back because I saw this years ago with Kirk. And this is where I really started to get frustrated with him. Was he started to tell young men that empathy isn't a thing. It's fake. And it's a sign of weakness. Empathy is something you should always hold to because people who don't have empathy are sociopathic. Think many serial killers and serial rapists. People who lack empathy tend to suffer from sociopathy. Okay? They don't care about other people. Okay? Now, this doesn't mean you need to fall on your knees and cry every time something happens. That was kind of part of the left thing I didn't understand when Breonna Taylor got murdered. I saw it as bad police work, voluntary manslaughter. What's a murder? It was voluntary manslaughter. Maybe murder two under another scenario that I hypothesized way back. That this was a beef between the boyfriend and the cop at some level in the drug war. That happens. That would have been murder too. But from what I know, the best understanding I have of that event was this was involuntary manslaughter, reckless endangerment, and possibly aggravated battery. But I don't know if the missing the bullet is the same thing. You definitely got ADW, especially when the bullets went to the floor and the walls and went to the neighbors. But if I remember correctly, the people next door, they did charge the officer eventually with endangering them, but not the immigrant or the minority that lived upstairs. I have to go back and remember that whole thing, but not everybody in the building was equally treated as victims, if I remember correctly. But a lot of people on the left had a big problem with my reaction. And some people in my circle of friends had a problem with reaction because I didn't immediately fall to my knees and curl into the fetal position and cry. Okay, I'm taking a look at this, observing a rational observation, analytic review of what happened with my knowledge and experience. I can't afford to fall to my knees and cry because I won't be in the frame of mind to objectively look at the situation. And when I did gather readings and I did objectively come to a couple of conclusions, none of the police actions were proper. Okay, and so my working investigative theories, some of it may have been collusion to criminality. Um, but Democrats, some of the big politicians on that side, they did try to reach out with some empathy, which Kurt hated. And obviously, everybody on the far right hates. You're not allowed to show empathy for Kirk or his family or his wife or his kids because blame shifting. You're the one that did it. No. White MAGA suspect, white MAGA shooter, white MAGA family, white MAGA ideology through and through and through and through and through this entire situation. There is no Antifa. There's not even conservatives involved in this situation. These are all far-right nationalists, theocratic nationalists, hell-bent on finding some pure angel to rescue them away from America. Okay, this is the psychotic trope they live in. You know, the whole crowd, every layer of this is 1,000% Trumpian nationalist politics, but somehow somebody else is to blame. The absurdities here are piling up. Okay. And I just put a political cartoon up, and you're welcome to share that and share it with your cranky uncle who still believes in this nationalist bullshit. Okay, this was not a political assassination. Yes, it was a first-degree murder with a forethought and planning. Okay, plus the Cypress nest made it another variable, another compounding variable in the first-degree part. Kurt is a victim of murder. He is not the victim of a political assassination. This was inter-gang violence. Gang faction A killing gang faction B. Laura Loomer has been going after Charles Kirk for months, all summer long. Okay. Nick Fuentes called Kirk all sorts of things you're not supposed to call other far righters, including neocon. Okay. Because where the far right's hatred started wasn't with the left, wasn't with liberals, wasn't with the far left. It was with neoconservatives, the Bushites, the Karl Rove. Okay, but Karl Rove's buddy, Roger Stone, ends up being one of the main celebrities in the nationalist far-right Trumpian movement. This is all intertwining and spinning around itself. The logic, the accusations, they're looping back on themselves into rhetorical gaslighting. Okay? And that's what you should do. Call it out as that. This was a murder where one interested gang affiliate thought he could further his gang's ideology and goals by shooting another gang member dead. Because that's what Trumpian politics is. It's a street gang always looking for more power and control. Okay? They hit the ground. I wrote all about this the other day. They hit the ground running because 40 years of softening the ground in America through right-wing AM radio, Rush Limbaugh, insane podcasters who just grouse grievance and don't offer a single fucking solution. They mock people. They mock young men. PBR is a great example. Dave Ramsey is another great example. Mock young men. We're going to set you up for financial failure through fucked up policies. We're going to mock Elizabeth Warren when she tries to do one thing right and at least regulate what a credit card shows a customer so they don't get caught in endless debt. Usury. Okay? Usury, the Drug of a Nation. That's another essay of mine. Please go read it. Okay? Do not let them frame this as anything but a gang-related murder. Until next time, think about it.